So in other words, it's not just every sect and denomination and individual that has their own interpretation of the Bible, but I know you're going to remember this now because I said it 10 times. The Bible itself is an interpretation. Now, when I say interpretation, that's what I mean. I mean a way of seeing a particular situation that comes either through a particular person or through a particular community of faith. Now, here are a few things that I learned while looking at Jesus through the eyes of Buddhists. I could call this sermon the Gospel According to the Buddhists. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person who, when I'm asked to do something, I want to know why. And I don't like to just follow blindly somebody's instructions, whether it's a preacher or my own wife, for that matter. I like to know why I'm being asked to do a particular thing. And it brings me back to being in school as a child, and my teachers telling me to sit up straight. Right? To be honest, it seemed like just one of many senseless rules that the teachers had for us. You know, don't lean back in your chair, stop talking, take that gum out of your mouth, look at me when I talk to you. Right? Sit up straight was just one more seemingly senseless command. Then, when I was learning meditation from the Buddhists, they explained that it's important to sit up straight because that's how the lungs get filled with enough air so that the blood has the maximum amount of oxygen in it. So I hope you're sitting up straight so you're really taking this in this morning. And they talk about that it also opens up some channels of energy that they talk about, chi. It's often called in Asian traditions about these sort of spiritual energies that move through the body. So sitting up straight made sense. And I remember thinking to myself when I learned this, you know, if my teachers would have put it that way, I might have tried at least a little harder to sit up straight. My point in telling you all this morning is that there was so much in the Christian tradition and in the Bible that just never made sense to me before. And I'm very thankful, in part, to the Buddhists who I met as I traveled around the world for helping me begin to see those stories and to learn those stories in a new way with some fresh perspective and some new eyes. So let me give you an example. One of the Buddhists cited Jesus' story when he tells the wealthy man in Matthew chapter 19 that he must give up all of his possessions if he wants to enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, this never made much sense to me. I didn't really get it, and plus you see preachers driving around in all kinds of nice cars, and they don't seem to be giving everything up, and I'm thinking, now what does that really mean? So it never made sense to me until the Buddhists described this teaching, connected it to the Buddhist idea of non-attachment. This idea in Buddhism that they teach that the roots of our suffering come from attachment and our inability to let go. Since life is synonymous with change, since change is constant and ever-present part of our lives, Buddhism teaches us to stay mindful of change and to appreciate each moment in the present for what it is. Now, in order to appreciate the moment, we have to stop holding on to the things and the people and the emotions that by their very nature cannot and will not stay the same. It reminds me of one time 9 years ago, we were looking for an assistant minister for the church. I'd just gotten here, and we were trying to recruit somebody from across the country to come and move to Tulsa and be a minister here at the church. And it was springtime. And we all know how beautiful Tulsa looks in the springtime. All the buds and blossoms. And so I was hoping that the blossoms would just stay on the trees long enough so that we could bring her in, show her Tulsa, show her how beautiful it is, and then she would decide, hopefully, to come so that we could recruit her to Tulsa. Now, of course, it's ridiculous to try to even pray to keep the blossoms blooming on the trees. But how often do we do this with other aspects of our lives? We hope for something that's totally impossible, totally unnatural, and then we suffer because we did not get what we hoped and prayed for. Just as the seasons come and they go, people come and go into and out of our lives, our possessions break, they get lost, they wear out, we get bored of them. Our emotions change throughout the day. One moment we're laughing, another moment we're crying. And we live knowing that someday we will die, and that everyone we know and love will someday die, but we don't know when. This week in Tulsa, 2 young cyclists were bicycling along the road, exercising on a beautiful day, and were killed by a reckless driver. In Washington, D.C., a person who went to work at the Holocaust Museum was shot dead by a white supremacist neo-Nazi that was 88 years old. Last week, a renowned doctor in Kansas was shot to death in his church. He was ushering in his own church. Never expected that that would be the last day of his life, or the place where his life would end. And those are just a few of the stories that caught our attention, that made the big headlines. In Buddhism, we're taught to be mindful of impermanence. It's the state of our lives, impermanence, so that we can appreciate each unique moment of our lives for the special gift that it is. Now, they say that every moment, every emotion, every relationship is like a cloud in the sky. It too shall pass. Enjoy it while it's passing, because nothing stays the same. This truth was not lost on the great poet William Blake, who said, "He who binds to himself a joy doth the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise." Our joy is always on the move. It's like a traveler traveling through our lives. And we have to learn to enjoy it as it flies by, in the moment. We can't hold on to it, or we end up destroying it, and causing ourselves even more sadness. And it's the same with other emotions, with our madness, with our gladness, with our madness and our sadness and our depression. The reality is, it too shall pass if we let it. We often don't want to let it, or we don't know how to let it go. So we fight against it, or we come up with all kinds of ways to keep it there by not forgiving, by maintaining resentments, by all the ways. We have all kinds of schemes to hang on, even to those things that are destroying us inside. But if we learn to wait, we learn to sit with and sit into our feelings, then just like joy and just like the clouds above our heads, it too shall pass. Whatever it is, it too shall pass, because nothing stays the same. So, circling back again to the story of the rich man, the Buddhists explained to me that from their perspective, Jesus was not trying to tell us that we have to literally give away all our possessions and live impoverished and homeless lives in order to reach the kingdom of heaven. Jesus is making a point about the problem of our attachments and teaching us how our grasping and our holding on traps us, and how such attachments cause a lot of unnecessary suffering. The point is not that we need to give away everything that we have. Of course, being a minister, driving a car, I don't want to give it away either, but that's not the point here tonight. The point is that we don't have to give away everything we have so that we have nothing. The point is not to be so attached to what we have so that when it's gone, we end up suffering unnecessarily. But I have to say that this is probably the idea that is most misunderstood by Americans about Buddhism. They confuse the Buddhist idea of ending our suffering with the idea of having a life that's without any pain or sorrow. A life where you feel no sadness, which is impossible. And it's not the point of Buddhism.